fat is not the villain, and we now know that there's no relationship between consumption of saturated fat and heart disease.
Hello and welcome. Today we're going in depth with food writer, farmers market entrepreneur, and real food expert Nina Plank. Welcome, Nina. Thank you so much for being here today.
This is a wonderful event. I'm glad to be back.
Oh, good. So your health perspective is founded in this idea of real food. What does that actually mean? What does that mean for you?
Real food is my own definition, but I notice that it's gaining currency, which I like. And although it's based in science, it's not meant to be specifically scientific. So what it means to me is food that we humans have been eating for a long time. In the case of wild fish and game, maybe 3 million years, give or take. In the case of traditional grain and dairy, 10,000 years at least. So foods we've been eating a long time. Not recently, like trans fats, which are less than 100 years old, white sugar, which depends, maybe 15th century. And then second, that it has been raised in a traditional manner and also processed and cooked in a traditional manner. So for example, a fresh glass of whole milk, unhomogenized, maybe even unpasteurized, versus skim milk, which has been spray dried, turned into powder, and then shipped across the country and reconstituted with water. And then finally, my note about real food and processing is that if it enhances the nutrition and the flavor, the processing is traditional and right. And if it detracts from the nutrition and flavor, it's not. So for example, when we make real bread, we ferment it with sourdough or yeast or something like that. We keep the bran, so it's whole grain. The vitamin E is still in there. The fiber. So creating bread from grain is processing, yes, but when we do it properly, when we do it traditionally, we enhance its nutritional value and its flavor. And the same can very much be said for lots of things, turning cabbage into sauerkraut, turning milk into cheese.
So what are some of the benefits to eating a real food diet, or what changes have you noticed since going this direction, or just in general?
Well, I was a low-fat vegetarian, vegan. I avoided saturated fats and cholesterol and meat and fish. I avoided fats most of all. And my health was poor. When I slowly converted to what I call conscious omnivory, all my health problems went away. And I really mean that. They did not go away overnight. They went away over 10 years. But I had dry skin and dry hair and dry nails. I was miserable once a month. I sprained my ankles. My digestion was poor. I was depressed and irritable. I got colds and flu in colds and flu season. And most of those things have disappeared along with 20 pounds.
So in your books, you often talk about the false myths that have been associated with things like beef and butter and things like that. What other common misconceptions are out there about real food, and how do we educate ourselves?
What a good question. A couple of them are really quite pernicious. And one is just that fat is bad and dangerous. And so that's been replaced slightly by olive oil is good for you and saturated fats are bad for you. But that is changing in the scientific community. Any natural saturated fat is good for you in moderation. So some beef, some coconut oil, some cocoa butter from chocolate plants. And there is some saturated fat in olive oil, by the way. So no food is purely saturated or unsaturated. So that's an important one. Fat is not the villain. And we now know that there's no relationship between consumption of saturated fat and heart disease. This is a new study in March 2014 from the Annals of Internal Medicine. So that's quite significant. Egg yolks got a bad rap for a while there because of cholesterol. But fresh, natural cholesterol, as I put it, is not bad for us and does not raise our blood cholesterol in unhealthy ways. And then I would say that we have not managed yet to put the blame in some places where it does belong. And really, white flour is not good for us. And all those yellow grain and seed oils, corn, safflower, sunflower, canola, are not good for us. And we eat too many. So too much white flour is still for Americans. Too much sugar, I'm afraid, and too many of these oils.
Fantastic. I love that. Well, Nina, thank you so much for talking with us and sharing some great tips in terms of how to start looking at real food differently and approaching food in that way. It's just a pleasure to have you part of our community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. And if you'd like to watch more in-depth interviews, subscribe to our channel.